त्रैलोक्यसम्पदालेख्यसमुल्लेखनभित्तये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय शिवाय ब्रह्मणे नमः। अवाच्यात्मस्वरूपाय शिवभावप्रदायिने नमः सद्गुरुनाथाय षट्स्थलब्रह्ममूर्तये नमः सद्गुरुनाथाय षट्स्थलब्रह्ममूर्तये। My humble pranams to everybody. I want to start by thanking Agraharam Group, Shri Shivaji, Shri Shiva, and Shri Vidya for inviting me for this session to talk a little bit about Shri Renukacharya as today is part of today's session. So to begin with, I would like to just lay out what the format or how this whole session is being structured. I would like to begin by giving a bit of a background about Sri Renukacharya and start with like the whole layout is going to be a mix of, you know, trying to give a very balanced perspective rather. There is a lot of legend that is involved. There are certain realistic research that has been done by highly eminent scholars. And I'll quote a few references and all of that. So that should take about like the just a few minutes initially. And then we will go into the philosophical aspects of Veera-Shaivism. And within those perspectives also, I have kept the treatment at a very topical level because I'm sure everyone here appreciates the arduous task of trying to outline a philosophy in 1 hour, let alone one session. So I have tried to keep it at a topical level once again, but still we will try to cover some deeper aspects. And we'll see as and how the questions arise. I'm more than happy to delve into the finer details if there is need. And then finally, a couple of like takeaways, key essence of what the whole aspect is about, what we have covered in about like an hour session, and then open it up for Q&A. So that's kind of like a overall high level layout of what is going to happen over the next an hour or so. So to begin with, if I have to talk about Sri Renukacharya, Renukacharya is a personality that is really an amalgamation of legend and historical aspects. Renukacharya, also called as Revanaradhyaru or Revanasiddharu, there are also references of him as being called as Pinnanka, Pinyanka, Pinyaka Siddha during the time periods that he is said to have been in Tamil Nadu. So we'll cover a bit of that when I come to the legendary and historical aspects and all of that. But he is one among the prominent gurus who is said to have propagated Veera-Shaiva philosophy. One of the key things that you are going to identify with Renukacharya is, his flag that you see here. It is green in color, right? The staff that he carries is said to be that of a peepal tree, or the Arali Mara, what we say in Kannada. So that's the peepal tree. That's the stick or the danda. The danda is made of peepal tree. He is associated with eastern direction. So when I talk about the Panchacharyas, I'll cover a little bit about that in a short while. But amongst the Panchacharyas, Renukacharya is in the eastern direction. Of the 5 primordial elements, Renukacharya represents the earth element. And he is associated with Rigveda, and of the Panchakshara, he is the Na Akshara. The Mula Panchakshara that exists, Namah Shivaya, the Na Akshara is associated with Renukacharya. The claimed place of origin for Renukacharya is Kollipaka, in what was part of like earlier Andhra Pradesh, but now is present in Telangana. Kollipaka is also called as Kolanupaka. That's, I think, a more present day name that has been given for that exists for the place. From a family perspective, obviously, depending on how we are looking at the persona of Renukacharya, it is indeterminate, right? So there is no clear records that exist about his origin or historically his origin and all of that. From a legendary aspect, I'll cover a little bit of those, but if we were to associate it with a historical figure who is addressed as Revana Siddha, then there is a record in an inscription that dates to around early 11th century, where he is referred to as the son of Shiva Yogi Shantimaya and also has a guru called Nirlajja Shantaya. Scholars are kind of like debated or kind of like they haven't figured out whether the Shantimaya and Shantaya, they both refer to the same person, because a father can also be your guru. So again, coming back to the period, if we look at it from a legendary aspect, obviously there is no determined period of Renukacharya's origin. However, from a historical perspective, even there we see a lot of like division in opinions, right? So some of them, they claim based on the inscriptions and everything, his time is dated to around late 11th to early 12th century, or early 11th century all the way to early 12th century. And then sometimes it is also considered between 13th and 14th centuries also. The real essence is always going to be in terms of what was the message, what can we understand of what they have taught us, and how do we implement it, right? So that's what I feel should always be given prominence to. But anyways, so going into a bit of a background about all of these things, like as I said, Indian school of philosophy has a timeless tradition. And within this sphere, we find several darshanas and there are several practices. From an agamic perspective, as you know, there are like, there are nigamas and agamas. And agamic perspective, you have various schools of thought that have followed a certain supreme personality. So you have Shaivas, you have Shaktas, you have Vaishnavas, you have Ganapatyas, Sauras. They are all kind of like aligned, but in terms of like the philosophical outlooks that they may have, in that they might either propagate like Advaitic philosophy or Dvaitic philosophy, Vishishtadvaitic philosophy. But in terms of that supreme entity that they try to adore, they all have like, so there is Shiva, there is Vishnu, there is Shakti, Ganapati, Surya, all of these. So there's a timeless tradition that has been followed, especially within Shaivite and Vaishnavite philosophies. You can easily identify all the variations. Like you have Advaitic Shaivite philosophy, you have Dvaitic Shaivite philosophy, you have Vishishtadvaitic Shaivite philosophy, and the same thing exists even with the Vaishnavite schools also. So within the Shaivite schools of philosophy, we have four classes where they're called as Samanya Shaiva, Mishra Shaiva, Shuddha Shaiva, and Veera-Shaiva. This particular Veera-Shaiva philosophy is what I'm going to spend more time on, because that is where the association of Renukacharya comes into picture. If we talk about the Veera-Shaiva school of philosophy, there is no, again, a determined period of origin or any one single founding personality that can be attributed. So that is one of the key aspects of traditional Indian philosophical schools. They are not prophetic in nature, in that you cannot say that, okay, this one person was the founding father, or if this one person was the prophet for like the entire school. One of the distinctive identity that is associated with Veera-Shaivites is that they wear the Ishtalinga on their body all the time, right? So there is going to be an Ishtalinga that a Veera-Shaiva will always have on his person, and they worship the Ishtalinga every day. The philosophical idea, if I talk about that, there is a close allegiance of Veera-Shaivism to Kashmiri Shaivism. So that is what is called in multiple terminologies. It's called Trikadarshana, there is Pratyabhignana, right? So that was propounded like the Shiva Sutras that were outlined by Vasugupta and later on elaborated by Abhinava Gupta. So that's like a branch in and of itself that we can dwell into in the future. But there is close allegiance to Kashmiri Shaivism, and this is also popularly called as Shakti-Vishishtadvaita or Shiva-Dvaita, or also like, Bheda Darshana, and I'll talk about why that is so further on. It rose to a lot of prominence, particularly during 11th and 12th centuries. Historically, if we are going to see, that is where the contribution of amazing Shivasharanas who emerged in that time period. It was just a wonder how in that one time scale, such outstanding spiritual personalities just emerged and spread this beautiful message of spiritual enlightenment and understanding that the divinity is within us. I'm talking about Sri Basaveshwara, Allama Prabhu, Akkamahadevi, Channa Basavanna, Siddharama, innumerable number of them who just like emerged and coalesced together in Kalyana, and the spiritual enlightenment, the spirit that really originated from that spot, that coalesced over there, like a big bang, it just spread throughout. And that is kind of like a brief, very brief gist of the historical aspects of the background of Veera Shaivism. And then if we come to, again, realigning with the Renukacharya and all of that, there are five prominent mutts, what are called as the Guru Pithas and or the Guru Mathas. The five of these are Kashi, Kedara, Sri Shaila, Ujjani, and Balehonuru. Each of these five mutts have five principal acharyas or five founding acharyas for these mutts. And they are Sri Vishwaradhya, Ekoramaradhya, Panditaradhya, Manularadhya, and Renukacharya or Renukaradhya or Revanasita. Right? So Renukacharya is associated with the mutt in Balehonuru, also called as Veera Simhasana. Right? So the Jagat Guru Pitha that exists over there is called the Veera Simhasana. So coming to those key elements of the Veera-Shaiva philosophy itself, if I were to talk about that, and you will see this next few minutes, I'm going to go from something that is at a topical level to something that is at a very surface level, to slowly get into deeper, finer aspects of it. I'm not going to elaborate on each and everything, but it gives you an overall picture of what the philosophy really talks about. So from now onwards, let's focus only on the message, right? Talking about what are the elements that distinguish Veera-Shaiva, right? So there are what are called as 8 avaranas or ashtavaranas. Avarana is kind of like, a protective enclosure or kind of like a compound, right? So having any sadhaka, any spiritual sadhaka who is on the path of spiritual practice needs to protect himself initially. Like, when you put a seed and the sapling emerges, you need to protect it for some time before it emerges and can stand on its own, can become like a huge tree, right? So till that time, it needs a certain protective layer. Such protective layers are also recommended for spiritual sadhakas, and there are 8 such avaranas that exist. These are Guru, Linga, Jangama, Prasada, Padodaka, Bhasma, Rudraksha, and Mantra. Okay. So within this, Bhasma, Rudraksha is what you wear on your body. And the mantra is obviously the Shiva Panchakshari mantra, Namah Shivaya. And the linga is what you worship. That is your object of adoration. And this is just not any linga, it is the specific Ishtalinga. And I'll talk about Ishtalinga like immediately soon after. And then there is the Guru who initiates you into this. And then there is Jangama, who is that enlightened soul or personality over a period of time. And again, kind of like, I keep moving back and forth from a historical socio aspects too. Over a period of time, Jangama has emerged another subsect within this overall community, right? So here Jangama does not refer to any subsect, any caste, any such kind of denominations. No, in every reference that exists of a Jangama, that Jangama is considered as a soul, as a person who has attained that supreme enlightenment, the Jiva Shivaikya, that the Jiva itself is Shiva, someone who has attained that level, he is the one who is called as a Jangama, who is truly worthy of being called as a Jangama, right? Not the sectarian aspects of it. So again, these are the 8 protective layers. And then you have certain behavioral attributes. Being a Veera-Shaivite, what are the things that you should exhibit in your day-to-day engagement? At a personal, social, familial, all layers of engagement that a person might have as an individual, what are the behavioral attributes that need to be showcased, aligned with by any Veera-Shaiva? There is Lingachara, Sadachara, Bhrityachara, Ganachara, and Shivachara. Lingachara meaning that you're always going to worship your Shivalinga, the Ishtalinga that exists, right? And this is where certain dogmas start emerging. And I'll talk about that also when I come to the next one, or when I talk about some of the key philosophical aspects, right? So, sticking to the Ishtalinga, right? Sadachara, obviously good conduct. Like, what Basavanna has so beautifully outlined, Kalabeda, Kolabeda, Husiya Nudiyalubeda, right? So, all of those that Basavanna outlines in his Vachanas, good conduct, essentially. Vrityachara, be humble. With anybody who comes, be humble. Consider yourself as you're in the service of humanity, you're in the service of others. Don't try to be one-upmanship, don't try to be egotistical, right? I want to prove that I am the greatest one. None of that has any eminence, not just here, in any spiritual path. If one wants to step on it, the first thing you have to do is negate your ego. Otherwise, that itself is going to become your undoing. Bhrityachara, Ganachara, like you have to have faith and be willing to defend what you truly believe in. That takes that true, it's not blind faith. It takes a true understanding to stand up and say, this is what I believe, and that holds. And I'm willing to defend, what I stand true for. It is not like the moment there is a difficulty that emerges, I'm going to flip and I'm going to like, okay, I'm going to go in a different direction. That is not what Ganachara is about. And Shivachara is like literally, ultimately aiming for that oneness, seeing Shiva in everything, in everyone. There is never, for a true Veera-Shaivite, there is nothing outside of Shiva. And that is the beauty of what that philosophical like culmination, right? In the next like just a few more, we will be like going into that part. So again, to talk about the Ishtalinga, also called as Kriya Linga, it is a symbolic representation of the supreme entity. That supreme entity is called as Lord Shiva. And again, Lord Shiva is both form and formless, right? So we have an anthropomorphic form of Shiva with like, 5 faces or 1 face and 3 eyes and all that kind of stuff. So there is a form aspect, but that form, everyone agrees within Veera-Shaivite tradition also that it is not the be-all end-all. It is a means. Like when you have a form, it endears you to that. But ultimately, Satchidananda Ghana, right? Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Shivaya Brahmane Namaha. He is that. He is Satchidananda. There is no attribute to that. You can't put a form, you can't do anything. However, in a symbolic way, if you want to kind of like, involve and engage with it, so that is why you are given an Ishtalinga or a Kriyalinga. The Ishtalinga Dharana Mahotsava itself, and even that Ishtalinga that is going to be given to you, has to be duly given after initiation by a guru. And that is the Ishtalinga Dharana Mahotsava. Right? So there is a whole ceremony that happens, and this ceremony happens at all key aspects of one's life. When you're born, even as a child, as a newborn baby, right, then you are given a Ishtalinga Dharana happens through the guru. Okay, and this is done irrespective of gender. Women also have equal rights, irrespective of what phase of their cycles, their monthly cycles they are going in. There is no form, any form of censure that exists for women in this. They have every equal rights. They can wear the thread, they can wear the casket at all times, and they should wear at all times. So, irrespective of whether you're a boy or a girl, irrespective of that, everyone gets initiated into the Ishtalinga dharana. And typically, like, either they wrap it in a cloth and tie it, or you can wear it as a thread, right? And particularly for female children, once they attain puberty, there is again a reinitiation that happens. And then prior to marriage is again, they kind of like, they put on this Ishtalinga Dharana, and all keeps happening at all those significant parts of your life. And so much so, even at death, right? So even in death, one of the peculiarities or uniqueness that you will see is that in our tradition, the body, the mortal remains, is not it's not like burnt, like obviously, but instead what happens is they are placed in a yogic position. They're not even laid to rest, like, like normally how you would lay down a body. They are placed in a yogic position, and even there, their whole posture is maintained like this, and the Ishtalinga is placed in that. So these are certain aspects of the uniqueness that exist. And as part of this Ishtalinga Dharana Mahotsava is where you go through what is called as Shaktipata. Shaktipata is literally, what it means is the transfer of the power, the spiritual energy from a guru onto the Shishya, onto the disciple. So the guru first imbues the Ishtalinga with his spiritual energy, and then duly consecrates it, and then hands it over to the disciple and says that here onwards, I have put what your true essence is as a jiva, the true essence that exists within you, which is Shiva. You are Shiva. Tattvamasi, right? So you are Shiva. But in order for you to realize that divinity which exists within you, I am giving you this Kriyalinga or Acharalinga or Ishtalinga, so that you, every time you look at it, you're always reminded that I am Shiva. I need to realize that I am Shiva, right? And this Ishtalinga can be worn in primarily the upper part of the body, Uttamanga, like, what is considered as head. So some of them, they wear it on their head, on their forehead, at their neck, the heart, like, where your heart is. It can come as low as the abdomen, but not below that, and it can never go to the backside. So you're not supposed to wear your linga on your back, right? These are all certain aspects. The sadhaka places the Ishtalinga every time you do the Linga Puja, you place it on your Karapitha, what is called as your palm. Like Pitha is like literally your palm is the Pitha. So you place it on your Pitha, and then this is an adaptation of Drishti Yoga. So there is a lot of like yogic, like Patanjali yoga is very deeply embedded in all of these practices, right? So taking off of the Drishti yoga that exists. So this is what is practiced. So when you do the Ishtalinga Puja, you place the linga on your Karapitha, you do, the Abhisheka and everything. And then once all of that is done, you bring it to your eye level. And then you Ardhanimilita Netra, right? You're not supposed to completely close your eyes. You're only supposed to close it half. it's really tough. You have to close it only half and with complete concentration without beating your eyelids. You're supposed to focus on that Shivalinga, on your Ishtalinga, and then you calm your breath, and that is the kind of like the tapas that the Shiva Yoga, that is also called as Shiva Yoga, right? And you can literally feel like the heat. It's like, sometimes you start sweating. Even if it is cold, you can start feeling the sweat in all parts of your body. So eventually, what the whole essence of Drishti Yoga is, the Drishti Yoga essence is eventually the Drik, Drishya, and the Drashtara, the one who is seeing what you're seeing, and this whole action of sight, everything merges. And you literally start feeling one, and you feel that, the divinity within you. And this is again like one of the key important aspects of the Veera-Shaiva philosophy is the Shatsthala, right? So the outline, when you're on a spiritual path, anyone cannot just attain that oneness like that. There are, of course, certain great entities, personalities, spiritually outstanding personas, whether we talk about Ramana Maharshi and things like people like that, who may be able to like understand and achieve that oneness in no time, right? But a typical sadhaka, philosophy is not always meant, like actually philosophical schools of thought are not meant for those kind of enlightened people. They were all meant for like common, like general population like us, more particularly someone like me, who would want to kind of like take the long way around, right? Because I don't have any of those capabilities in me. So the Veera-Shaiva philosophy talks about this path that one can take towards that one, achieving that oneness, that ultimate realization that I am Shiva, right? And there is a what is called as like a step-by-step process. It's called as a sopana. Sopana is steps, and there are 6 thalas that they identify once one gets on this path. There is the Bhakta Sthala, there is the Maheshwara Sthala, there is Prasadi Sthala, Pranalingi, Sharana, and Aikya. Each of these are certain stages that we reach as we start advancing spiritually. First thing, everything begins with devotion. Ultimately, the ground reality, the foundation for anything is bhakti. If you don't have bhakti, then everything you built on that is going to be like a shaky thing. Nothing can be constructed on shaky grounds. No faith, no achievement, no enlightenment, spiritually oriented can happen if there is no firm bhakti involved. For each of these stages, there are different lingas and there are different types of bhakti that has also been outlined. Each of these, like, as I said, it's like too deep, but I'm going to just talk at a superficial level over here. Bhakta Sthala has Achara Linga, or like as I said, the Kriya Linga, right? So that is where you have to have Sadbhakti. Maheshwara Sthala, it is all about determination. Like you will understand when you get on this path, every day, if you have to do something, you start getting bored. You start trying to look for like shortcuts, like, you know what, can I do it like, instead of these many number of times, these many number of minutes, what if I do take a shortcut and all of that, right? We always tend to do. It's human nature. Let's be true about that. Maheshwara Sthala is about having that determination, is having that unflinching discipline that I'm going to do this, right? So there is the Achara Linga. Achara Linga, sorry, the Guru Linga, because you want to have that Nishtha to what the Guru has said, and it has Nishtha Bhakti attributed to it. Prasadi Sthala has Shivalinga, there is Avadhana Bhakti. Prasadi literally means that every experience that you are going through, everything that you receive, you take it in the sense of this is a prasada. Tena tyaktena bhunjithaha. What is said in Ishavasya Upanishad, right? Ishavasyamidam sarvam. Truly, like every experience, like whether you feel happiness or sadness, how do we receive a prasada? We take it with such ultimate surrendering, with such trust and faith, we receive a prasada. When anything tough happens in our life, are we able to maintain that equanimity? Can we receive everything in that same mindset? Right? So that is the Avadhana Bhakti that is present over there. Prana, these three, the Bhakta, Mahesha, Prasadi Sthalas, they are all at a level of karma, right? So there is certain conduct that is expected of you. Now, as you start moving towards the Pranalingi, Sharana, and Aikya Sthala, there is jnana that starts emerging because you do this. If you have the right mindset and you do things, it is going to have an impact, and that impact is really ultimately that realization, the jnana that has to emerge. And that is what you start feeling gets unraveled as you enter into pranalingi. You start understanding the divinity within you. It throbs. It becomes it becomes very powerful. You can feel that within you. And then the Sharana Sthala, where you really, once you have understood that divinity, right, within you, you will see that divinity within everyone. And then you consider yourself so dear and so close to Shiva, then you consider yourself as Shiva's wife. The Sharanasati Lingapati Bhava starts emerging, like, I am his wife. The only male in this entire entity is Shiva, and I am his Sati. Right? How a Pativrata has to be, that's the kind of like stage to which you get to. And ultimately, when Aikya happens, right, at the Aikya Sthala where Mahalinga, Samarasa Bhakti, there is no difference between you and Shiva, you have become Shiva. That is the level to which the spiritual path takes you, rises you, and all of this. And like as I said, the first three are like Kriya Pradhana, the second three have Jnana Pradhanyate in them. So again, tying all of this together, what are the key elements? Like as I said, there is the primordial supreme power that is Shiva. Now I'm getting into the more philosophical aspects of the Veera-Shaiva philosophy, or I want to talk a little bit of Shakti-Vishishtadvaita. Why is it called Shakti-Vishishtadvaita or Shiva-Dvaita? So the Shiva, the supreme power, has a Visishtate in him. What is that Visishtate? That Visishtate is Shakti. Shiva and Shakti are inseparable. It is their kind of like, the what can I call that as, like the Leela or the Sambandha that exists between the two that gives rise to creation. And Shiva itself is projected in the form of a Jiva as the what creation that we see because of the influence of Shakti. And that Shakti is not different. That Shakti is within Shiva itself. There can be nothing apart from Shiva. Everything is Shiva. So even the Shakti also emerges from within Shiva and eventually dissolves into it. The Jiva is engulfed by three impurities, what we called as Anava, Maya, and Karmana Malas. And because of this, we forget that we are Shiva. And the whole process of this spiritual journey is to dissolve, is to kind of like scrape off, is to clear ourselves off of all of these impurities. What is Ajnana? What is Andhakara? Absence of light is Andhakara. Absence of Jnana is Ajnana. So literally what spirituality is about like, scraping off this ajnana, and that itself becomes you're already a jnani. All you need to do is take off the layer, like the way a burning ember already has fire within it, but it is covered by ash. All you have to do is like, blow the ash off and the ember just emerges, right? So these are the three types of ignorance that we have. And eventually in some darshanas, they don't classify. See, it is all about just one. In Trikadarshana, they call it as Pasha. Pasha is all encompassing. But here they go into a little bit finer details because we want to kind of like associate with something unique, right? Something different than just calling it as a Pasha. So we say, though, this is also a Pasha, but there are three finer aspects that we can go into, which is Anava, Maya, and Karmana. That's all. Irrespective of which caste, creed, gender, age a jiva is in or belongs to, everyone has equal ability to attain that spiritual realization if they put in the required effort that is needed for it, right? And that can happen through following the guru's margadarshana and everything. And that is where in Veera-Shaiva, there is no aspect, no importance given to your varnas or ashramas.
Yeah.
Because the moment your Diksha Pradhana, there is Diksha Pradhanyate. Once that has happened, then all of that is gone. Don't care about it. Therefore, a Veera-Shaivite cannot question what varna, what jati, what ashrama you belong to. They have to respect one another, treat each others as equal. There is deliverance from the bondage of karma. Karma is not be all end all. Once you have got bound by it, doesn't mean that you can never escape. Realization, experience is paramount. So striving to realize the presence of the God within and everyone else is the true essence of the spiritual practice. Shiva is present in every organism, so absolutely no scope for any violence to any being. So non-violence, yajna, yagas, where there is pashubali and all of that, sacrificing animals to appease gods, no, 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 completely prohibited, and is not. It's not just prohibited; it's highly denounced. They are very brutal in how they criticize animal sacrifices for yajna, yagas, and all of that. Because you already have been initiated and you're given a Kriya Linga or an Achara Linga or Ishtalinga, which really is the essence of the entire divinity that exists. That supreme entity is what has been given to you on your hand. And therefore, there is no need for you to go to any temple or go do difficult Tirtha Yatras. Now, again, we need to understand the context here, right? Because we are talking about periods. We are talking about 11th century, 12th century, not like we can't judge, or we cannot pass comments on aspects sitting in our comfortable environments where I can book a ticket in one time and like immediately go to some place that I want, and then question, oh, why would they say these kind of things, right? It is like we can't make these kind of like comments. I feel that those are very short-sighted. The whole essence here is that Shiva is within you, and that itself has been imbued into a Kriya Linga, into a Ishtalinga, and you wear it always on your body. Where have you ever been separated to go search somewhere? If I have lost something, if I've forgotten something in the other room, I'll go to the other room and then fetch it. Shiva can never be forgotten. Shiva can never be separated from you. Shiva has become separate, then you're gone. You don't even exist, right?
Couple
So
of people have raised their hands. Okay.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, just doing a time check,
Oh, time
Praveen.
check. Yeah, I
Sorry for
know.
that,
I
but
want
very
to.
interesting topic. Didn't want to interrupt you, but just
Yeah,
doing
just
that.
I have one more slide and then we should be done with
Oh,
this.
good. Very good.
Yeah. So, and again, Kriya and Jnana.
Veera-Shaiva also has a question, I think.
ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಅವರೇ ಇದು
ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಇದನ್ನ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತೇನೆ, and then we can open it up for questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Kriya and Jnana are like the two wings of a bird, right? For a jiva to rise, you need both action and knowledge, right? Knowledge without application and action without proper knowledge are both futile. It's like a cart that is trying to run on a single wheel or a bird that is trying to fly with a single wing. They're both futile. There has to be that samarasa between jnana and kriya or karma, right? The Guru Diksha or initiation by the Guru, it burns down, like as I said, all the aspects of Varna and Ashrama. Kayaka and Dasoha are two very, very key elements of any Veera-Shaiva's life. Kayaka, one must always earn one's livelihood by just means and engage in occupation. I cannot sit back and say, I have inherited this much amount of money, I'm going to go do social service now. No, you earn. You put your sweat and blood and tears, you earn, and of the money that you have justly earned, spend that in the service of others, and that is where the dasoha element comes into picture. So spending money in service of others, this is not charity. You have to serve them with a truly that understanding that I'm here to serve others. I am but a bhaktya. I am but a servant. right? Not giving with an entitlement that, I have so much money, I can donate. No, that is not at all considered as appropriate. That is not even dasoha. That is just charity that you are giving, right? And you have to earn your assets by your hard labor, and only that can be spent in selflessly, without any desire for acknowledgement or any reciprocation. No, selfless service. So the key takeaway really at the end of all of this, if I have to say, there's a beautiful verse that exists in Siddhanta Shikhamani. Nanyat pashyati yogindro, nanyat janati kinchana, nanyat shrunoti sandrishte chidanandamaye shive. Once you have come to experience that oneness with Shiva, you cannot differentiate between people. You cannot ill-treat others. You cannot be rude, brutal, hurt, nothing, because everywhere you will see Shiva. How can you hate anybody? How can you detest anybody? How can you ill-treat anybody when everything you see is Shiva, inside, outside? Everything, Satchidananda, that Chidananda Maye Shive. Essentially, the whole amalgamation of this in a capsule size is Yatra Jivas Tatra Shivaha. Where there is Jiva, there is Shiva. See Shiva in every Jiva. That is what it is. So, Sarvam Shivamayam Jagat Shivamastu Nityam. Thank you so much. Yeah, there were questions, I guess. Yes, Harish, all right.
ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಅವರೇ, ಅದು ಮೂರು ನೀವು ಹಿಂದಿನ 2 ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜೀವ ಮೂರು ಇಂಪ್ಯೂರಿಟಿಯಿಂದ
Maya Karmana, yes.
ಅದೇನದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅದನ್ನ?
Yeah, so the 3 malas, that is what Harish is talking about. What is Anava, Maya, and Karmana malas, right? Mala is impurity. Anava mala, like as I said earlier, is where we consider ourselves as Anu. Anu being that I am small, I am incapable, I am inefficient, I can't do, these are all we beat ourselves. I am a papi. I'm a papishtha. I have all of these things, and that is my true identity. This body that I have, that is who I am. And this body is made of all of these things. It falls sick, it dies, I have to suffer through it, it experiences pain. So that is my true identity. I have to suffer, suffer, suffer. That itself, that's the first mala. No, you are divine. Understand that you are divine. This is not, yes, at a topical level, at a vyavaharika level, you feel pain, correct. But that is not your be all end all. There is something higher. That is what Krishna says, right? That is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, right? Your soul, achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo shosya evacha. You can't wet it, you can't burn it, you can't chop it, you can't damage it, nothing. That is who you really are. So this Anavamala is that enclosure, that how we have encompassed ourselves with this belief that I am not good, I am inefficient. Maya is again, they're finely entangled with one another. Maya Mala is understanding that everything that is transient is permanent. Right? So we have this adhyaropa, we superimpose something on top of it. That is one of the tricks of Maya. The Maya performs 2 tricks on us. One, it masks what is, and then it projects something else on top of it. And one of the beautiful metaphors that they give, examples, is if you are in a half-lit room, if there is a rope that is present, you mistake it for a snake, right? First thing, what did Maya do? Maya hid the reality that it is a rope. And then it superimposed something on top of that. It made you feel that it is a snake. So there are 2 ways Maya tricks you. That is the Maya Mala, right? So we are also tricked by understanding that whatever is transient, we consider that as permanent. So what was transient is not being shown as it is transient, but it is being depicted as permanent. So that is the Maya Mala. And then Karmana. karma. I am bound by my karma. Sanchita agami prarabdha. My past life I did this, so in this life I have to suffer. So the next life also I'm going to suffer. I'm going to be like, again and again, I'm going to go through this cycle of birth and death. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Iha samsare bahudustare. Up to that point is what is our strong belief in our incapability to transcend the bondages of karma. And they say that also. Iha samsare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare bhajagovindam bhajagovindam. And here they talk about, yes, through this path, once you understand the oneness with Shiva, no karma can impact you. You will go through, but the effects you will not. See, who should worry about the burning hot earth, especially when we are talking about global climatic changes and global warming and all of that. Summer is so hard these days, you can't walk barefoot anywhere. Who should be worried? Someone who has to walk barefoot should be worried. If I have shoes or if I'm wearing my footwear, I don't need to bother about that. So that oneness of Shiva and Jiva that has once been attained, that is why nothing will stop, nothing will bother you anymore. Which is why we see to this time, when we talk about entities like Ramana Maharshi, who could undergo surgery without any anesthesia being given. Why? Because you transcend that boundaries, right? So that karmana mala, if we shed these three, you're all set. Now you have, come to understand the Shiva that is within you and experience it.
Thanks a lot, Praveen Garu. Very pregnant discourse, and also so much of information inspiring us to read more about and understand more about Veera-Shaivism. So I have a couple of questions. One is about the six thalas that you mentioned about. So the Bhakta Sthala, Mahesha Sthala, Prasad Sthala. So are these all one after the other, or cumulative, or they are independent?
Yes, so they are sequential, one after the other. But what is interesting is there is a beautiful vachana where Channa Basavanna says, in one of the vachanas, Basavanna says, as a bhakta, I became Mahesha, Prasadi, Pranalingi, Sharana, and Aikya, and all of that. Channa Basavanna does not agree to that. He says, what do you think? Do people have timeless years of life ahead of them that they are going to go from Bhakta, Mahesha, Prasadi, Pranalingi? He says, no, I don't want to go through this. My spiritual practice, I want to jump from one to other, because when you really encompass the experiences of each of those talas, right? You can definitely jump, and that is what Channabasvana also says. Says you don't have to go sequentially. But again, for general common parlance, for sadhakas, step by step, you will start identifying, you will start feeling these things. As you start proceeding in this, you will start feeling your detestation for things that you don't like will melt away. That means you have become a prasadi. What is a prasadi? Everything that comes is a prasada. I will accept everything with equanimity. What Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, just bear with it. He says, put up with it. Agamapa nityam, agamapa nityam, shitoshna sukha dukkadaha, something else. And then he says, agamapa nityam, shitoshna sukha dukkadaha, tan titikshasva bharata. Titikshe is put up with it. That is what is called as prasadi over here. Everything that comes, just Accept it with equanimity and say, thank you, Shiva, whatever you have given, I'm accepting it. Pranalingi has started identifying that Shiva is within me. I can sense that. When I sit down to meditate, I can feel that divine presence inside me because I'm so calm. What is ultimate realization? Calmness. Calmness. Always being at peace. Always being like a smile on your face, right? No matter what one says, what another one says, they did not appreciate me, these people did not understand. Be calm, be smiling, truly, not like showing outside and inside you're like cursing them 100 times. No, 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 no. Both inside and outside, when you're calm, that itself is your ultimate realization. Yeah, Pranalingi, Prasadi, Pranalingi, Sharana, and Aikya. So, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but in terms of the practice itself, so once somebody is already initiated at the time of birth,
Mhm.
and why does it happen to why should it happen multiple times during the phase of life? So
Correct.
because they have already I mean during the course of sadhana they will probably start identifying themselves as Shiva themselves. But why should it happen multiple times during the entire lifespan?
Yes, that's a very beautiful question. I'm so glad you asked it. So the very first initiation, like as I said, happens within like couple of days of your birth, right? Now, would a guru be able to initiate and explain the Jiva, Shiva philosophy to a newborn baby? Absolutely not. If the entire family is one that is kind of like, tightly aligned with it, and that is where we see in many instances the father itself has become a guru. There are certain sharanas where the wife became the guru of the husband because they understood. And then they say, please, you have understood this, teach me. There is a husband, who requests the wife, please teach me. You have already attained, you have already become enlightened. So reinitiate me. Why does this have to be done periodically? Because we always need to realign. We always need to realign. As you start advancing in your age and there is a capability for you to grasp certain of these finer nuances, then the guru will reinitiate you again and again, emphasizing. And at marriage it is so beautiful because again in Veera-Shaiva philosophy, marriage is considered an extremely blessed aspect of life, one where both husband and wife, if they together advance on a spiritual path, that is the most beautiful experience that you can have as married couple, right? So when it is done at the time of marriage, the guru again says, you're now entering into a married life. Okay, don't detest, don't hate one another. Both of you can be the supporting crux for one another to advance. Hold hands, go together on this. So they again reinitiate you so that you and your husband both, or the husband and wife, the spouses can both together advance on this by knowing that let us both support each other in realizing the Shiva within us. But of course, when it comes to people just mechanically doing things without understanding, then there is no point to any of these. These all become dogmas. These all become kind of like quote unquote rituals, right? We just do it because, oh, it has to get done. But that's the true essence behind why it gets done periodically. One, obviously, at birth, you can't really understand. To a newborn child, you can't explain all of these things. You advance a little bit more, explain it again, and then prior to marriage, because now you're entering into a new phase of life, right? So that's the context. Sridharji has a question.
Yes, Praveen, thank you very much. It was a nice presentation.
Thank you.
Towards the end, it got very, very interesting, and I learned a lot. But I had one, after listening to your presentation, there is one Kannada song sung by SPB. It's a movie song, I think. It goes like this: Shiva Shiva endare bhayavilla,
Correct.
ನಾಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಟಿ ಬೇರಿಲ್ಲ, ಶಿವನಾಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಟಿ ಬೇರಿಲ್ಲ,
Correct.
ಶಿವಭಕ್ತನಿಗೆ ನರಕ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಜನ್ಮ ಜನ್ಮಗಳ ಕಾಟವದಿಲ್ಲ. So that stanzas easily Telugu people we can understand. I wanted to. There are like 4 or 5 stanzas. What do you think that opinion? Your talks seem to be everything in that song is there.
Yes, absolutely. That is from the movie Bhakta Siriyada, which was a song. The lyrics were composed by Hunasuru Krishnamurti, one of outstanding, eminent lyricist who his devotional compositions, if you listen, it is electrifying. And yes, it is a composition by Hunasuru Krishnamurti. So thank you so much, Sridharji, for bringing it up. So yeah, it is literally what every philosophy, like, if you look at Ramanuja, Sharanagati Prapatti, right? What does that mean? Shiva Bhaktarige or Vishnu Bhaktarige, anyone, no naraka. But is bhakti so easy? Like, can we call anyone and everyone Shiva Bhaktas?
Yeah, in that song it talks about giving dana and also earning money.
Yes.
Unnati sadhise hagaliru.
Yes.
Deenanadana maredaru. All
Yes.
that. I like that meaning of that song.
Correct.
So I just wanted to share with the whole group.
Very nice. Very nice.
So it summarizes the whole Veera-Shaiva philosophy.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes. In fact, Siriyala is quoted in so many vachanas by Shiva Sharanas. Siriyala, Devarada Simaya, and sorry, I have to recollect on the spur. I have to recollect some of those names. Siriyala, Devarada Simaya, Jedarada Simaya, and Karikala Chola. All of these, there are so many of them who have been very ardently recollected. In fact, Bedara Kannappa, in a very beautiful vachana, this is one of my favorite vachanas of Basavanna, he teases Shiva. He says, what's wrong with you? He says that when Kama, he shot flower arrows, like arrows that were so mrudu, that were so soft, they were made of flowers. And that poor fellow, you burnt him off. That Arjuna, he hit you with such vile arrows, sharp arrows that were made of iron and what all and whatnot that could harm you. And for him, you gave off your Pashupata itself. Beda, who killed and all of that, he killed animals and he gave that as offering to you. You so happily you accepted, you hugged him, you took him with you to Kailasa. I am also a papi, but you don't seem to be listening to me.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, so yeah, like literally there are this lot of like Siriyala's story is it's just amazing. Yeah.
Any other questions, anybody? I have one technical question I will ask you, even briefly, if you can respond.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, once you take the initiation and everything, all the followers of Veera-Shaiva, do they do Rudra Namakam Chamakam, or is it something else that they do every day?
No, there is no requirement for them to do Rudram, Chamakam, any of that. The Ishtalinga Puja is what it is.
Okay.
As part of that Ishtalinga Puja, like it is again, like that's the liberty of bhakti, right? Not everyone might be able to know Rudram, Chamakam. Not everyone may have the luxury of doing it. But if there is utmost bhakti, not taking shortcuts, like I'm not talking about I woke up late today, I don't feel like it, I have another meeting starting, so I'm going to do a shortcut and I'll just do a 5 times panchakshari, right? Minimum 5. Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah. Done. Okay, finish it off. That's not what they talk about. But with utmost surrendering, even if you do one japa, it's fine. And in fact, as you go into the Pranalingi Sharana Aikya levels, this Kriya side of things will start becoming minuscule automatically, because when everything, like, how in Shankaracharya Stotra, he says, Atma Tvam Girijamatihi Sahacharaha Pranaha Shariram Graham Pujate Vishayopa Rachana Nidra Samadhistitihi Sancharah Padayoho Pradakshina Vidihi Stotrani Sarvagiro Yadyat Karomi Tattadakhilam Shambho Tavaradhanam. You are my Atma. Parvati is my Mati. That discrimination, right? Girijamatihi. Nidra sancharaha pranaha pranaha atmatvam girijamatihi sahacharaha pranaha shariram griham. All my prana, the 5 or 10 pranas that I have, they are all your ganas. This sharira itself is your house. Sanchara padayoho pradakshina vidihi. Everywhere I walk, I am doing your pradakshina. When I sleep, I am in samadhi. When whatever I do out of my hands, it is all your archana. Whatever I talk is your stotra. Yadyat karomi tattad akhilam shambho tavaradhanam. Everything that I do, when it is your aradhana, then why should I sit in one place and do it? Right? So it will melt away, but it has to melt away out of realization, not out of taking a shortcut, or just like scholarly, like, oh, they have written it like this, so I'm also not going to stop all of these things. First understand, experience it. When you experience it and then you say, right, it's kind of like tasting sugar.
Right.
Having experienced the sugar taste, I can talk about it. Otherwise, no matter how much I explain, sugar taste is sweet, 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 nobody will know anything what it is.
Very good.
Cool.
If no one else has any questions, I think we can close the conversation. It was very good. Thank you so much again coming on to the call, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you want to close, if you have any closing prayer, if you want to do, then it's okay. We can do it and then close it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks once again for inviting me, and again thanks to everyone for patiently listening, though I went over time, but I'm really grateful for this. Yeah. Oh. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.